Hey everyone, I'm Kunal Bajwa.
And I'm Lance Jordan.
We are two nerds who decided to start a podcast in 2020 due to the pandemic. No topic is necessarily off the table, and we'd like you to join us in hearing our thoughts on various topics, ranging from anime to Zeppelins. We have it all. Here we go.
Alright. And here we are with another edition of They Need a Hobby podcast, starring yours truly, Lance Jordan, and my lovely co-host, Kunal Bajwa.
Bajwa?
Bajwa?
Bajwa! No, it's Kunal. Kunal. Just Kunal, it's like Beyonce.
All right. you dropped the last name. You dropped the last name. Just Kunal now. I'm going solo. I'm broken from my family.
Destiny's Child is done. We're okay. Man, I haven't talked about Destiny's Child in forever.
It's been some time, hasn't it?
It has. It's been my childhood since that's happened.
Yeah, it's always been about Beyonce. But we're not here for Beyonce. But
we're not. I don't even think we should. I don't know if we should keep that in or not because.
Oh yes.
It's very different from what we're talking about today.
But how are you, man? It's been a while.
Yeah.
How's your holiday?
Oh, it was good. I was actually drinking whiskey and hanging out with some friends in Kentucky. So yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Got away, grew a nice, full, healthy beard.
Everyone has been loving this beard, and including myself. I want to put that. It's just, I never knew I could grow a thick beard, and all the white people love it too, man. Like,
yeah.
They just are like, oh my gosh, I wish I could grow your beard. And I'm like,
man.
Yeah.
You know you made it when
white people give you compliments.
Exactly. When you find the white approval.
But seriously though, I really do like this. It's really, I can actually like think about something and stroke my beard.
Yeah.
Like it's great. I'm going to maybe trim it a little bit just because it's getting a little longish, but I don't know. I'm contemplating that.
What was it on Family Guy where did Peter grow a beard or like a mustache and he was like, you get nunchucks or something once you grow? That
sounds right. That sounds very much like Peter Griffin. I mean, if it's not that, he's just saying Roadhouse and roundhouse kicking someone.
Right.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So we're here today for just an episode with us two. You know, no guests this podcast.
They just need us. Guests are bonus.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah.
So just us, and we're here to talk about, you know, this brand, this company, these people, this concept you introduced to me, this group known as 8711.
Yeah, like the reason I wanted to do it is because, like, one, it's tied into a lot of different, like, there's so many streams that you go into for this. It's like martial arts, cinematography, directing, stunt performing.
Kind of tied into like
everything.
Just summer blockbusters in general.
Yeah,
in a way.
Tremendously, especially for this group. And people have been interviewing them. Like they're not unheard of, but at the same time, I feel like more people should be talking about them. And I'm like, fuck it, I have a podcast. Why don't we just talk about them there and like why they're so interesting and everything. Also, how are you doing? I forgot to ask you that.
Oh. We're going back to me. I'm doing great.
I'm glad.
You know, my beard has already been here. So
your beard is very well kept, I will say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed it today in particular.
I did cut my hair, though.
Yeah, you got I don't know what you got, but you got a good haircut. Yeah.
And, you know, in my circles, we call this a fade, but I don't know what everybody else calls it.
Oh, okay.
But...
Oh, it is a fade. Oh, my bad. My bad. This is why I just go to my hairstylist, Marcy, and just like, make me sexy. And she's like, I got you.
and that's all she wrote, huh?
That's all she needed to. Yeah.
All right. So 8711. You can Google it and you find that they're connected to some of the biggest like movies, blockbusters, if you will, of the summer. You know, Jurassic World. We remember that movie.
Right.
TMNT,
the newer ones,
not the version,
not the 90s version.
John Wick, Fast and the Furious. I mean, we just had Fast 9.
Yes, we did. I heard there was something going to space in that one.
Hey, man, that was a wild ride.
No doubt, lots of oxygen as well. But
I mean, we could do a whole podcast breaking down what was real and what was fake in Fast 9, but we're not here for that.
Not today, at least. Yeah.
But I wanted to pose this question to you since we're like delving into this topic of when was the first time you ever realized films use stunts?
The first time I remember like hearing the word stunt double was the story has Kunal written all over it. He was watching a Disney movie, and
Disney Channel.
That's right,
original
Disney Channel original, and it was Luckily Irish. And apparently there was I remember thinking back to the movie that there was a couple like random parts where they use Irish magic and certain things like they do competitions, or like he shows up doing this and that. And I remember like watching it and enjoying that movie, and then the credits roll and I see something that says stunt double, and my mom's right there, and I'm like, what's a stunt double? He's like, oh, that's when they have someone stand in for the actor to do like a backflip or something like that. And I just remember being confused because I was like, well, the entire time I saw this actor did this movie.
Right.
So I was very confused around that. So I was like circa 10 or 12 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, around that time.
I think for me, and I could be wrong, but if memory serves me correct, the first time I like really realized it was with Rush Hour.
Good stuff.
Jackie Chan, we might get into him a little bit later.
Sure.
Talk about, his influence on stunt doubles, stunts in general.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember, like, I don't know if you remember, but like movies back in the day, like in the 90s, early 2000s, after the movie was over, they would always roll the credits. And then like,
especially for his films.
Yeah.
He loves doing that.
And then like show like the cuts, like the things that, they either messed up on or like they missed a line.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing those back in the day for like comedies, like, oh, they just messed up lines and they had to shoot it again.
Yeah.
But I remember in like some of those with Jackie Chan, like he was actually performing a stunt, and it was like, okay, he messed up, so we got to shoot it again.
Yeah, so he runs things, and we'll get into this later, but he runs things a lot like the 80s and 90s did in Hong Kong cinema days, like the Shaw Brothers kind of era. And they would run like if you did not get this take, you had to do the entire take again.
Yeah.
And that's why like his movies are great, but then you look at the, I don't know what that thing is called, where they like, they have the block and it just like.
Yeah, the cut.
The cut, the cut thing, whatever it's called. It's like the black and white stripe thing. And it says like scene 4, scene 4, 10 minutes, take 207. Right. And I'm not joking. Like there have been takes that he's done like that much, just to get everything going.
That's insane. But I could see him being a perfectionist in that way.
Oh,
but
yeah. We could do a whole podcast, let alone forget an episode. Like we could do a whole podcast on Jackie Chan.
Just on Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, it was just like, you would see some of these stunts, even back in the day, where it was like, man, that looked like that shit hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, I couldn't imagine them doing like this too many times, or like even the actor being involved. Cause like you said, I seen this guy, he was the one who received the punch and flew out the building. I couldn't fathom that there was somebody else that, looked like the actor enough to the point where they could like do some cutting and, work their cinema magic to make it look real.
Sometimes it's completely real. Sometimes they wear padding.
Yeah.
Sometimes they wear a wig and then or they look enough like that one character. And so they're just like, okay, yeah, go for it. Just go and do it. Yeah. It sucks. And it's awesome at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys haven't gathered, so we're talking about, 8711, and it's about this group that performs stunts.
Right.
Whatever.
You have seen them if you have seen any summer blockbusters in the past 10 years.
Yeah,
at
last
least
10 years. Easily. And I think, when you first proposed this idea to me, and I'm going to make this point, and, tell me if I'm right in it. Like,
sure.
So at first when you were proposing this, I was like, I kind of looked at it like an album, like a music album, if you will. Like you said, this is this group who's informed in like all these, movies, blockbusters, whatnot. And it's like, okay, in an album, you could pick your favorite artists. I care about, Kanye rapping, or, whoever album it is, whoever your favorite artist is. You really, like, as a casual, I guess, person, you really don't think about too much who's behind the scenes. You really don't care as much. So I'm like, why would I care? Well, this was before I did my research.
Oh, okay.
To be ignorant. Why would I care about the stuntman? Like, why do I care? But what was revealed to me is, and we've already talked about it, they've had their hand in everything. And I think
I'm nodding profusely right now. Yeah.
I think that's the whole point, and this is why we wanted to bring this to you guys, the listeners, because if you can think about a movie you've enjoyed, and I'll just name the big one that they really just been involved with, is like John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you enjoyed that, then you enjoyed them and you enjoy their work. And what you find is a lot of their movies, they're related. Like,
oh yeah,
you can't escape them.
You can't escape them. And actually, I like the example of thinking of them as like an album cover, because think of the Wu-Tang Clan. Everybody has had their own career from that group.
Yeah,
and everybody has kind of influenced or worked with other people. In fact, I think RZA has actually worked with some of the people we're going to talk about.
Oh yeah,
this is interesting that whole example and stuff came about. Yeah, so it's just cool because like everybody kind of knows everybody, and when you get to really, like I mentioned in a couple episodes ago in my martial arts one, when you get to really high level skills, the pool of human beings shrinks just because it's such a commitment, and then you realize, okay, the world's a pretty small place when it comes to all this stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, it feels almost like, and I could be wrong, but it almost feels like you would have to know them because it feels like they cornered the market in a way.
Especially this group. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to do an episode on them, because I feel like they haven't gotten enough praise. Like there hasn't been a documentary that's come out about them. As of
no Netflix special.
There's no Netflix, and there's been great documentaries that have come out recently on Netflix. One in particular, like Quincy Jones, The Black Godfather. I could go on and on, but yeah.
So when you proposed, like, who the hell is 8711? I was like, why do we care? But then, like, going into it, it's like, okay, these guys have, like, really made something of themselves. They really, like...
And you've known them without knowing them.
Right. And it's like they take in even... And then they've evolved in their craft as well, right?
Oh, tremendously.
What we find out is, like, they were kind of just doing stunts. Mm-hmm. Little side gigs here and there in roles. And then, now we're directing, now we're producing. They just didn't settle for
their position, their like marked out niche.
Absolutely.
That Hollywood gave them. Yeah.
Like a studio could have just, and I think you made this point off air, was like the studio could just grab them and be like, hey, just do these stunts. Yeah. And that's your role in the movie. They're like,
it's like calling a plumber.
Right.
It's like, okay, we need you to come in and fix this stuff. I don't care what you have to do. Here's the money. Get it done. Whereas like, okay, like you need to consider like the construction of the house. You need to consider like how old it is. What kind of pipes are you buying? What kind of equipment are you buying? Are you cutting corners? Like if you're going to cut corners, you're going to have problems down the road. And this is definitely the property management side of me coming out too. But yeah, like that's the whole point in that Chad was trying to make.
So, before we go any further into 8711, I thought this was just kind of like some things we could talk about, like the history of stunt doubles, stunts. Yeah. I'm going to use those words interchangeably, like stunt doubles, stunts, whatever. And what I found interesting enough was like, and then also to do your own research, because we might present some pretty off the wall. Yeah. Not 100% correct fact.
Because, like, that's another thing about the stunt community that we'll cover later. A lot of it, like, there's the Taurus Awards that recognize them. There's no Oscar category to this day for any stunts.
Really?
Yeah, there's, like, action sequences and, like, stuff they've done in movies and whatnot, but, like, never for stunt performers, which I find really weird. And because of that, I was researching, like, today, like, because I couldn't find a straight answer of, like, why stunt doubles aren't known. Only really hardcore nerds know Ray Park.
Right.
Or the people we'll mention out here.
Okay. But I was just thinking, so, the first early, I guess, documented stunt double was in the 1900s. I think that's interesting considering how long, cinema's been around.
Yeah, late 1800s, early 1900s, yeah.
And then like to even be paid, like, so in this movie called The Count of Monte Cristo.
Monte Cristo, yeah.
Canal can pronounce all my words. So like the director like paid Frank Hanaway like $5.
Oh my god.
Just $5.
I mean, sure, that's a lot more back then, but still.
Right. Like, but then it was like, even like I was like running, Google University. I was like, what was like $1 back in like 1908? And there was like, that's equivalent to like basically $30.
Oh my god. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? $30
to risk your life. Yeah.
Right. And you have to imagine like back in the day.
Yeah.
They weren't as advanced in having like ropes to like catch you and padding.
Yeah.
So just imagine like $30 today, like to go do, hey, Kanal, go jump off your balcony.
Right. And like, and yeah, just be careful.
Right. Land on your feet.
Yeah. You're a cat, right? Like, it's all good.
So that was just like something interesting, like a interesting fact about stunt performers, like just to see how far they come and like even how recent they are, or at least documented how recent they are.
Oh yeah.
Anything further on like anything in the history of stunt performers?
Yeah, a couple things. So then you have like stunts, like you're talking about, like jumping off buildings, like going down ropes, doing all that stuff, explosions, demolitions. Yeah. Those are stunts. And then there's also fight choreography, if you want to call it that. So like the examples I always give are like the John Wayne fights, where it's just like, one shot either from his gun or from his hand, and like the fight's done. And then you like, I was watching Buck Rogers and the 31 and a half first century or whatever, like the old sci-fi show, and they have like fight choreography on there, and it's laughable. Like, even look at like the fights, and I say with the biggest air quotes, on Star Trek, the original series. Like, you might as well just like, Mad TV made the best fun of it, where it's like they had just three people line up, and Kirk would just go like double karate chop on their shoulders and then just do a right hook, and he would walk down the line and do that. And that's basically how they looked. There was not a lot of patronage for stunt doubles in terms of any protection for that stuff, and also just like they're not gonna give you money to perfect your skill. We need to worry about the story. We don't care about this stupid fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can even like imagine like even early like 90s films or like TV shows where like you would see, maybe that actors like fighting, but it would be like fists flying in the air, and you could like tell.
I mean, Walker Texas Ranger is a great example. Like, he punches somebody and they like go the other direction, and I'm like, okay. Right. Granted, there are some good fights in that show. I will say that.
Like Power Rangers, like if you think about the original one.
That's a good example.
Yeah, like you could just tell like they would not even come close to striking the person, and then they just go flying and flipping all throughout the air. That was off tangent.
That's okay.
But
it's all good.
Going back, so we're going into 8711 now. So we're going into it, and I think it's important for us to like really dissect the two main guys.
Yeah.
The two guys that helped formed it.
The two guys that are the heads of it, who really put it together. And we'll definitely give everyone else who's like the honorable mentions and people who really made it happen that stick out in the research that I've done and Lance has done. So the two guys are Chad Stahlskey and David Leach. So I'll talk about Chad Stahlskey in the first place. So Chad Stahlskey is a absolute beast. As with everything in my podcast, it always goes back to martial arts. This guy was the number one demo partner for Inosanto for a long time. So Dan Inosanto is Bruce Lee's top student, and then co-created Jeet Kune Do, and then now will be starting again because of COVID and whatnot next year. So he like Filipino martial arts, Indonesian martial arts, everything is he takes, dissects, runs his own. So like French kickboxing, American kickboxing, Thai boxing, everything's taught there, and he's met everyone from the Machados to capoeira instructors. Anyone who's anyone in the martial arts community knows his name or has met him at some point.
All right. He's
had a very interesting life. There's a whole episode I could do just on him in terms of like the people he's met. Like, I've been to the academy out in Marina del Rey, and you see pictures from like Kobe Bryant, Mr. T, What's his name? Dude has a mustache. Burt Reynolds.
Like that's a very, very long list.
Very descriptive. Like the girlfriend in Austin Powers, Tia Carrier. Like everyone in like cinema and fight choreography and martial arts has crossed paths with him at some point.
Okay.
Guy's like pushing 85, I think now.
Okay.
So yeah, Chad was a big shot out there, and he was like one of his main instructors was a guy named Burt Richardson, who so we're recording this podcast in July. So I actually got to meet this guy. Super nice guy, super down to earth, chill. We learned a bunch of him. He had a bunch of stories from his days, like just learning from old Filipino grandmasters, and also he was a stunt double, in a couple small roles here and there.
Okay.
He wasn't credited for and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, you just background fighter number one.
Yeah, or he was like just holding a gun in one scene, and he just gets killed later, and so it's kind of like that. But yeah, he was one of the main teachers for Chad, and I after the first day, so there was 2 days, 4 hours each day, and I was like, hey, I gotta ask you, I heard you trained a guy named Chad Stahlskey. He's like, oh yeah, dude was totally focused, super nice guy. I trained him basically for free because he was strapped for cash and stuff, but
because he was in college at the time.
Yeah, he was just a broke college kid, and he's like no, I trained him for free. I didn't accept any money from him, and he just had nothing but glowing reviews to talk about him. Specifically, he said he was one guy that was just focused and knew exactly what he was going to do. So, yeah.
Did he say, like, even back then, he kind of had an idea that he was going to be in Hollywood, though?
I don't know about Hollywood, like, more so from the research I've been doing, he's more into martial arts. Like, He has a whole early MMA background. Here's the thing, though. Like, every time I talk to people who like say that he had a background, he was definitely known for Shudo, or shoot wrestling, which is a Japanese version of catch wrestling, pioneered by actually a wrestler, Satoru Sayama. I don't know how well you know the Japanese wrestlers.
Okay, like a pro wrestler?
Yeah.
Okay.
He developed it, and his top student was a guy named Yori Nakamura, who then went on to work with Inasano. Inasano then, teaches it to everybody there. Since Chad was around that time, he's one of the highest ranking people on the globe. Not just in the country, on the globe. That's insane.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude is a beast. The only record I could find him, ironically, was his loss. Was his one loss. Like, we were talking about this off air. I've heard people talk about how he had a career in pro fighting, but since it's the early days of like Pride and Shudo and Japan and stuff like that, it's harder to find those. Now, if you find them, please send them my way. I'd love to see them. But
we thinking the record got lost somewhere.
Somewhere they just didn't take him in the first place. He doesn't he hardly talks about it. He's more of like, I kind of did it and was done. There's video of him training a guy too. It was interesting.
No underground fight arena, you don't think? No Baki? No. No underground?
No underground illegal tournaments that I know of. But he has worked in he's been around the block in that way. It's interesting also, like I'll drop his name to other instructors in the Inasano world and stuff like that, and they'll kind of give me a blank stare. It's very odd because now he's pretty much associated with movies as we're talking about now. But then I've talked to really, really senior people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I helped have pads for that kid one time," and "Oh yeah, this guy was there back in the day before this guy was the demo guy for Inasano." I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember him." But it's very interesting to me that the Inasano community doesn't know more about him too, or like a lot of them don't remember him.
Or kind of like use him as a flagship, if you will.
I would think. Like, I'm kind of surprised they don't. Like, that's part of the reason I'm also doing this. Like, we need to know who Chad Stahelski is, because literally every time he does a movie, he would bring Keanu into the Inasano Academy and learn to train out there. Yeah. So
that was like his first connection into the movies, wasn't it? Like, Keanu Reeves, he would come in and do the stunts for him, correct? So
this is how it kind of happened. There's a guy named Jeff Amada, who we'll touch on when I talk about David Leach, but we're already into it, so let's go for it. Jeff Amada he was a big stunt double. You'll recognize him in the background as a bad guy in Blade. He actually did all the choreography and training for Blade. It's kind of funny.
The original?
Yeah, like the.
Okay.
I was gonna. Oh my gosh, Wesley Snipes.
You were going to blank on Wesley.
I blanked on his name, and surprisingly, Wesley Snipes is a big Inosanto guy too. He's trained with him a bunch. So yeah, he was the guy, and so he became the bridge for Chad and David to kind of get more people into movies, get more stunt doubles that he knew who were well trained into movies. And I've actually met Jeff Amada, super nice guy, very short. I did not expect him to be shorter than me, and I was like, oh my god, if you can be this cool, I can be this cool. And so yeah, very down to earth, very good at what he does. No one I've heard say anything negative about the guy. He's super talented, one of the senior guys in the academy too.
Okay.
Yeah, total badass. Worked on the Bourne movies.
The other guy, not Chad.
Jeff Amada.
Okay, Jeff Amada.
Yeah, sorry. Jeff Amada also worked on the Bourne movies.
Okay. Chad gets his first start with The Matrix. Working as Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
Originally feels like he wasn't going to get the job.
Yeah, he wasn't really interested in it, actually. But it was a lot of timing and just, honestly, luck and just a change in decisions that he decided, like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do for it. So he was the stunt double for The Matrix for Keanu at that point.
Okay.
Also, I forgot to mention this, but he was good friends with Brandon Lee. For The Crow, he actually, after
that's another one.
He did all the stunts for Brandon and also did a lot of stand-in stuff after, unfortunately, he was killed accidentally. So they were apparently really good friends, too.
He's definitely just been connected to basically Keanu Reeves his entire career.
Oh, tremendously.
As a stunt worker.
So the Wachowskis pick him up for The Matrix, and he works for them for those 3 movies as Keanu's double. So he did all the acrobatics. And keep in mind, Chad is like 6'1". It's hard to do gymnastics when you're that big. He was taking all the flips and stuff. They used the wire work and everything. But what was most interesting, Chad really cut his teeth on The Matrix because it was directed by a legendary Shaw Brothers Hong Kong era Wu Ping Yuan. And when I say legend, it's underrated because he has this huge career in Hong Kong. Right. You'll recognize him if we're calling back to Jackie Chan. He made Drunken Master.
Yeah.
He made
Jackie Chan's breakthrough movie.
Right. He made Snake in the Eagle's Shadow when Jackie Chan's like 20 years old or something. It's super goofy. He's so young. And he also did Fist of Legend with Jet Li.
Okay.
Yeah, so he worked. Yeah. So those are the kind of movies he's worked with. So they did a lot of wire work in The Matrix, and Chad and David were able to work with them and gain a lot of insight and like how much to use that for like later movies, how much to use that for themselves. They really got some good exposure, and they remained good friends. They actually did a movie later called Man of Tai Chi, where Wu Ping came on and worked on the project with them. So like 15 years later.
You touched on a lot. Doing a little bit of research, I know the motorcycles, acrobatics, scuba diver. So were these skills that he was just, picking up along the way and just didn't have intention on really putting them to the film, or did he just like,
so what
I'm
happened,
in this films, let me...
He was saying in the interview, so there's a 8711 Artist Behind the Action is a podcast, and this is where I found a lot of my information from. One of the guys who works for him interviews him and asks him like, how did this come to be? And so he basically said he did a lot of stunts, not fight choreography when he first started. So his big breakout role is The Matrix, but previously he did a lot of work that required all the stunts that you found here. So like fire burns, air rams, ratchets, acrobatics, scuba diver, precision driving. He actually owns a bunch of different motorcycles.
Right.
He really is into that.
Like an enthusiast.
Oh, tremendously. And also he was the masked fighter in Kung Pao Into the Fist. The roots of 8711 actually begin there. A lot of the people who he works with end up working with him for 8711.
Okay.
So he actually has a big comedic side to him as well. Yeah.
And what year was that?
2002.
2002. That's where the seeds kind of get planted.
That's where the seeds kind of get planted for, like, in terms of connections and everything like that. And also where you see his comedic side. So that's fun. Okay. All right. So then the other guy is someone named David Leach. And so a lot of the information I'll I'll relate this time is very similar. You've already heard it from Chad. He went to University of Minnesota, and he's initially from the Midwest, I believe. He chose the University of Minnesota to take, I believe, a teaching degree out there, just to be close to a certified Inasano instructor called Rick Fay, who I've heard of, never gone to a seminar. It's always just conflicted with my schedule. But he runs an affiliate school out in Minnesota, and it's a really, really big one. While he's there, he makes kind of crazy connections. Specifically, if you're big into MMA, you've probably heard the name Greg Nelson. He's a big MMA coach, and when they were coming up together, they were actually taking a lot of grappling skills and incorporating it from what they learned from the Inasano community and messing around with that a bunch. When he goes to the Inasano community in the summers, he meets Chad there. And that's how they became friends out there and everything. He also is where he meets Jeff Amada.
Okay, bonding over the martial arts.
Right, exactly.
So David, he's kind of double for a lot of, I would say, like high profile, like celebrity martial artists. So like
definitely
the Van Dammes.
He did Brad Pitt on Fight Club.
Now that was an intense movie where just fists.
So that's the thing too. He actually trained everybody on that too. He or like he was one of the big guys that trained someone. Something important to note: whenever there's usually like for example, if you have like Captain America fighting in the Marvel movies, like there's usually like 2 or 3 stunt doubles. They usually switch out, but typically it's like, it's usually not just one person, but it's usually 1 or 2. But he was one of the main guys for Fight Club and trained everybody there. Worked with another guy named Damon Caro, who worked on 300, Wonder Woman, a lot of DC movies to this day, actually.
Yeah.
And they were both in the Inasano Academy at the same time.
The Inasano, Academy just seems like it's popping out all these martial artists that Hollywood is just taking advantage of.
Oh, my gosh.
Not in a bad way, but
just taking all the talent from there. I mean, that's why I wanted to do this episode, because I was like, how is no one else seeing this? How is no one else talking about this? And it's funny for a 29-year-old who runs a podcast with his friend, but I'm kind of surprised more people don't know about it. And I know it's niche, but it's still really cool. So as he's doubling for Van Damme in the movie In Hell, because he also worked for Van Damme, which is crazy. Chad calls him and says, send a tape. I want you to come work on this new movie. And he's like, what's the movie? He's like, it's called The Matrix. So it's here where he meets the Wachowskis. It's here where he meets Wu Ping. And as I don't think I said this earlier, but the Wachowskis are also big fans of Hong Kong cinema. Wu Ping, there was a interview with him. Wu Ping was like, yeah, I don't know how they found my number, but they called me and I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. But they pleaded with him and like basically restructured everything just so he could come on. And he was like, okay, fine. It was kind of funny. And Wu Ping's also known for his humor as well. And so when David was called on by Chad to come on for The Matrix, he doubles for Agent Smith.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is what made the action so good. These guys know each other. They've trusted each other. They've come up together. That's why those fights between him and Neo work so well.
And I feel like basically without the martial arts, none of this would have happened.
Oh, tremendously. Yeah. And it was also just, a lot of it was happenstance too. Just like meeting the right people. That's the theme of...
That's life.
Yeah, that's the theme of life. Oh, you said it beautifully there. That's so true. A really big movie. So this is actually one of my stories that I first got to know about David Leach. I was watching Atomic Blonde, awesome movie, right?
With Charlize Theron.
Yeah, and it's based on a comic called Cold Cold City, and set in the Berlin Wall's about to fall, and it's all like spies and everything.
Over the top spies.
Oh yeah.
Let's be very clear.
Oh yeah.
There was nothing.
There was
minimal stealth. But
they were not stealthy. They were really hot. That was really about it.
Right.
And that's totally fine with me. As the fights are going on, I was like, oh, these fights look really good. Like there's a really big oneer fight scene near the end of the movie. And when that was happening, I finished the movie And I was like, oh, let me look at the, like the director's cut or something like that, the director's commentary. And there's this guy who pops up and he says, oh yeah, this move right here. And I noticed it too. I was like, oh, this is some knife work. I was like, this looks like stuff I may have done or practiced before. He's like, oh yeah, we call this return to sender. And I did a double take. I had to like rewind it because no one else has ever said that term outside of my training. And so I was like, who the fuck is this guy? So I looked him up. His name is David Leach. And that's how I got to find out that he's, part of the Inosanto community and everything from there. So that sparked this entire thing, his entire section from there. Also, when you're watching the behind the scenes on there, all of the stunt guys are wearing Marvel Civil War hoodies. So they were the same team on the Marvel movies too.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lance is seeing me just light up like a Christmas tree right now.
And I think that goes to my earlier point where it feels like these guys are like kind of cornering the market in a way. But it feels like there's a little beauty to how they choreograph fights. And you pick up on it because you kind of, at this point, you can kind of spot the movies
yes,
they direct and produce. And I don't think we got straight to this point yet, but, at some point they form 8711.
Yes.
And, they go from just the stunt guys to the extras. Now they're directing, they're making films. And like you said, Atomic Blonde with one of their films.
Oh yeah, Chad was like, this is more your style, go and do it on your own. So he became from second set director, who was someone that they phoned in like a plumber, to like completely taking over the movie and like, no, I care about the story and the action just as equally. One thing I want to add, so it's circa 2007-ish that 8711 forms, and they run it like they run it similar to the Shaw Brothers. So the Shaw Brothers would actually have a whole building, and I found this out from watching a documentary on Netflix called Iron Fists and Kung Fu Kicks. It's really digestible, really fun to watch. Everybody's on there, from Michael J. White to Jeff Amada. And they talk about how the Shaw Brothers would basically, it was not as pristine as I'm making it out, but they basically made them all live in the same building, train together, and that way they could keep an eye on them. They wouldn't, go off and get drunk and stuff like that. They would just be focused the entire time. And them being such big Hong Kong cinema fans of the 80s and 90s kind of run it similar. Yeah. I've heard there are places you can sleep in a facility. I think I would be surprised if they didn't have that. But for the most part, everyone trains here. Everyone hones their skills. Everyone trains with each other. And then they teach the actors that are going to play the movies, their characters. Right. So it creates a whole bunch of trust. Scenes.
Yeah.
You're building up skill and trust with everybody there, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then one of the interesting things, too, we talk about them being secretive, but, they have their own podcast where they're kind of introducing us to basically the members of their team.
Yeah. It's been quiet recently, but ever since COVID hit, they've taken
everything
a huge
kind of shut down.
Yeah, everything kind of shut down. They haven't started up again, which is sad because I love hearing about their stuff. Interesting fact: the guy who runs it, his name is Kale. The podcast, I mean, and he actually shows up in Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah,
as a background character. They kind of just look at him, and he's impossible to miss. He's like the tallest guy in the scene. And it's where Statham and The Rock are like chained up by the bad guys. And they look at this really tall guy. He doesn't say anything. He just looks back at him. That's the guy who's running the podcast. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
See, that's what's cool. Like you find out these little tidbits, and it gives you so much more of an appreciation and understanding for what's going on in the background.
Because they're giving a lot of their members a chance to like, and I use the word eat as a term of like everybody's profiting.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They're doing one thing, but then they're doing one thing behind the scenes. But another thing, too, would just, I think with the earlier point with the Atomic Blonde, it just feels like now that they formed 8711 and they're making movies, a lot of their fights just seem really crisp. And there's like almost a beauty to it.
Yeah.
That other movies maybe that didn't use 8711, like it didn't have, like, if you look at Hobbs and Shaw and how they do their fight scenes, it's a little bit different from like even like some of maybe the earlier Fast and Furious where they weren't involved.
Right, yeah.
As far as fights, they're not as fluid.
I think they come on around like 6 or so.
Right.
I think.
So if you look back at 5, it's a little bit more raw.
Yeah.
And then like even with I think this would attracted a lot of people to John Wick in a way, was how even though how gruesome it was and bloody, but it was like almost like a beautiful poetry. Like you could see, like you would go on YouTube and you'd be like John Wick highlights on how he killed people.
Yeah,
and then it's like
he's using actual like grappling techniques. Like there was an interview with him and Chad, Keanu and Chad, like getting interviewed by somebody, and they said like, what was the setup for this? He's like, well, we're going to save a bunch of money because the budget for John Wick 1 was terrifyingly low compared to the other two.
Oh, I imagine by this point it's on the level of a Fast and Furious movie.
Right. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
I mean, as far as budget.
Yeah, now at this point, it totally is. But because of that, they're like, well, we're going to have to, you're going to get beat up and you're going to have to train, do everything with everybody. And you can tell like, okay, these are actual like judo moves here. These are actual grappling techniques. So
it's also a point to, I think they make, I don't know, it might be a subtle point, but even as the fights go on, there's almost like a realistic tone to it.
Yes. It's a cleaner shot.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like almost unrealistic in a way that the main character can like go rounds with like a group of henchmen and not take some type of like damage.
Hits. Yeah, it's like you come out perfect like in the Batman games.
Yeah.
Like it's not how they show them getting hit, especially in like Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh yeah.
In the last fight scene.
And then I think we also speak to kind of like the detriment of kind of the style of these movies, right? So like when I was doing the research and find out they did John Wick, they did Atomic Blonde, Hobbs and Shaw. These are all movies they directed, by the way.
Yes.
And then even Deadpool 2, I start to see like the similarity.
You start to see the same thing where you go. Like, and that's what's like for me, I'm like, oh, that's cool, I can recognize this, but then I'm like, it's getting kind of stale. Like at the same, as excited as I am about this episode, like that is one of the drawbacks I see potentially happening. And the thing is, they could totally change it. They just need to change it. They could totally mix it up.
I think it's a point to, like I was saying, like if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Because I think with these franchises like John Wick and Deadpool and Fast and Furious, they make tons of money.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think they're really incentivized to change it. And I don't really know how much they really need a tweak or a change. But I just think it's really interesting because I never really thought about it before. Because, before someone tells me, I never really think about the directors and like what their mark is on the movie. But with these guys, I feel like they leave their mark, and I can, like, now that knowing who they are, I can be like, yup.
This was done by them.
That was them.
Like the way they shot. Like, it's actually kind of funny you say that. I was going back when I first heard about them, and I would catch clips later on like YouTube and stuff like that. I was watching Red routinely. Yeah. They're Retired Extremely Dangerous. And that was done by them too. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I not see this before? Like the way that they do is a lot of the fight scenes, especially from the Korean intel officer. He's using a lot of Kali, and the way that they're doing trapping, like the new Snake Eyes movie is going to be done by them too.
Oh man, and that's the thing too. Even with the trailer, you could just tell it's just written all over the movie, like, right? But not necessarily a bad thing or detrimental thing. But I just think it's really interesting that I can just tell now that it's them.
So before we go on, there's a couple honorable mentions to the group 8711. Number one is Jonathan Eusebio, who's known as Uncle Jojo by the team. I don't know why. That's just his name. He directs Black Panther, and in terms of fight choreography.
Fight choreography?
Yeah.
Okay.
He shows up in Kung Pao when, and there's an interview with him. He's like, yeah, Chad told me to do this, like fling around some nunchucks and then do a front flip and then trip and fall on my chest. Problem is he was falling on concrete and he'd do it like 10 times.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. But he's fine and everything. But he shows up in one scene for like 2 seconds when the main character is like messing around with the eyeballs. So you can go back and look that up. Heidi Moneymaker. That is her actual name. She doubles for Scarlett Johansson in all the Marvel movies.
Okay, so probably even for this Black Widow movie that just came out.
She totally did. She's one of, I think, 2 or 3, but she's one of the big ones. And then Daniel Bernhardt, who is... It's funny because he was slated to be the next Van Damme. He's actually a former Swiss model. Yeah, very good. He's done a couple movies. It ended up not working for him, so he became a stunt guy. He shows up as an assassin in the show Barry. Yeah.
I love that show.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's the assassin.
Yeah.
He goes to assassinate a dude, and he finds out that guy has a daughter. That guy, the father of that daughter, is Daniel Bernhardt.
They had like a whole little fight, like kind of little drag out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that girl is like a champion karate fighter.
Because she attacks him.
Yeah.
Like in the next scene.
She attacks Barry. But yeah, Daniel Bernhardt shows up in there. Daniel Bernhardt shows up in literally everything 8711 does and is immediately killed. So it's kind of like a funny trope that they do, that he kind of just brings it back further and further. He also is the third agent in the Matrix movies. He's the tall agent who... I'm trying to think. He fights on the freeway in the second one, but you can't miss him. He was in Bloodsport 2 as well. He's the main character. And the last one I have in terms of honorable mentions is for you, actually. There's a guy named Jeremy Marinus, who's our age, by the way. And I'm watching Community, and the first, like in the first season, where they have that huge schoolyard fight.
What was the pillow fight, or was it a paint fight?
I don't remember. It's not the paint fight. I think it might have been the actual fight where like Jeff has to fight somebody. Okay. Yeah, Jeremy's like one of the guys in the brawl. Like he has one line and then gets like knocked out or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, those are just like cool things for me to notice. Real quick, let's talk about the whole point of 8711.
Yeah. Because I like how they even brand themselves as like, because it's easy to, just get thrown under choreographed stunt company, but they call themselves like action design. Yeah, which I really like. I saw that on the website, and I felt like that was a different way to brand yourself or market yourself
instead of just like the stunt guys or something.
Yeah, because I think it's evolved a lot, because I feel like stunts where you do a couple scenes and then you're out. Yeah. But then, like, you look at some of these movies, like, especially, like, something with Michael Bay or any of the superhero movies, there's, like, a good portion of the movie where it's just, like, all action sequences. Yeah. And I feel like that's what these guys, they do. They design the whole action sequences. And for these movies, it's, like, the entire film. Yeah. Like, that's... Well, if it's good. That's why they're able, like, that's why they made their own studio, because they're like, we're tired of everyone else, quite frankly, fucking it up. So they want to do it like that. So yeah, the main points of 8711, it's like train the actors, work with the stunt doubles, you'll make the action look superior, realistic, enjoyable, and even safe for everybody. Mm-hmm. Heidi Moneymaker actually trained Halle Berry when she was working, one, to fight, and also with the dogs in John Wick 2. Oh, John Wick 2. Yeah. So that's just a fun there. You build a great relationship, and then it lasts for later projects going forward. They don't really do the shaky camera, the overabundance of cuts, and they try to go for the oneers, which is where like they like it got really famous in the Daredevil first season. Oh yeah, in Daredevil the first season, it's like the Facebooks or something. When he's going after the Russian mob, or in the hallway. Yeah, the hallway one scene. Yeah, that's another one, as well as like the third season where he's trying to get out of the prison. That's a oneer. Oh, with the Punisher. Is that the one? That was a different one. This one he's coming in as Matt Murdock, so he has to escape and everything. Oh yeah, okay, it's in the third season. It's hard to miss. And since they're all the stunt guys, David Leach has mentioned Kelly McCormick, his wife, who's a producer and had all the right connections. So because of that, they're able to, get meetings with Michael Bay and whatnot and do all that stuff. With the right directors to position themselves. Exactly. So knowing the right people is really the heart of this episode. It really is. It's kind of safe to say. Yeah. if they didn't, they wouldn't be where they are.
Oh, hell no.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on them.
No,
or their talent level.
I mean, that's realistic for across the board. Everybody.
Yeah. So 8711, looking on the horizon. You've done your research.
Maybe.
So we know they recently were involved with the Harley Quinn movie.
That's right.
Which is interesting enough. Robert, what's her name? Margot Robbie? Margot Robbie?
Yeah.
She said she needed a break. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's intense. It's a lot.
So they're going to still be cranking out the John Wick movies.
Number 4 is on the way.
Yeah. I kind of felt like, I don't know, like the original John Wick was so great.
The first one was the best. Yeah.
2 was good.
Yeah.
But then I was like, all right, now it was kind of like this indie thing, John Wick.
Yeah,
and that's what I really praise him for. It was like this indie thing.
It's so interesting you say that because Chad on the podcast he was interviewed, he was like, the studio we signed up for is more known for their like artsy films.
Yeah.
And so that's why they were willing to take a chance on us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of the problem of Dragon Ball Z where they have to keep on hyping things so much to keep people interested.
Yeah.
It's like biting off, like the world is kind of shrinking beneath you as you do that. So then again, I don't manage a multi-million-dollar production company, so what do I know?
I was going to say like kind of along the lines of Fast and Furious, and I know I keep mentioning it, but it's relevant for this podcast. But like, if you think about the first Fast and Furious, it was kind of like a indie kind of cult classic kind of feel to it. You like, okay, a movie about cars racing.
I mean, Tyrese Gibson still yells all the time, but yeah, he definitely is there.
But then it's like it evolves, it gets the fan base, and then like the studio. And I'm pretty sure they're connected to a like really wealthy studio that's funding them to say, hey, we want more John Wick. We want more Keanu Reeves. So it's kind of feeling like, when are you guys going to kind of cut it?
Yeah.
But we'll take John Wick 4, but it's kind of like, when does it end?
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like Donnie Yen's supposed to come in it too. Which see, here's the thing. Like it kind of becomes like oh God, and then but it's kind of one of those moments where you go like you sigh, but you're like, do I want to see another movie with Donnie Yen? Yeah. Do I want to see another movie where Rocky shows up? Yeah.
Yeah, because even when they brought in like Lawrence Fishburne for John Wick, you were like, oh, that reunion is subtle, but yeah.
I was like, everyone just knows, but no one says anything.
Right.
There's a part of you that it's just such big fan service that you don't mind.
Yeah, you look the other way.
One thing with Harley Quinn, there's a scene where she jumps on a guy's like knees and breaks them. That was Daniel Bernhardt again. Just FYI.
That was him performing it?
That was him performing. He was the driver for Sionis, and then he gets his legs broken. And that was Daniel Bernhardt. So like everything he's in, he gets killed in. I just saw that on the list, so I remembered it. And
then it's interesting you put it in here because now that I know, I might have to go watch it because the trailer even had a feeling of like it could be these guys, but nobody.
Oh, yeah.
With the guy from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I saw it, I was like, this is such an odd movie.
For him?
Yeah, for him.
Yeah.
And then it's like the action sequences. I'm like, that could be interesting. But
I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah.
There was something interesting he said. He's like, I didn't want to get Hollywood buff for the movie. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't. He's just kind of like a comedy. So... Oh my God, Bob Odenkirk is his name, and he's a comedy writer. He wrote for SNL. He worked with Farley.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like that's why it's such a weird movie because he's this New York. I think he actually grew up in Chicago, but he spent his time in New York, and he's known as a comedy writer. And like, why is he beating and killing people?
Yeah,
what was going on?
But it's so odd.
Yeah,
it's like it kind of like attracts you to it in a way.
Yeah.
But another movie along that got that same feel, just kind of based off the trailer, that Kate movie that's coming.
Yeah, it's got I forgot her name, but it's basically about she's an assassin that is poisoned, and now she has to figure out like what to do. And she goes to somebody for help.
It definitely got that Hannah Atomic Blonde kind of feel.
Yeah,
but one thing we keep mentioning, Ghost of Tsushima.
That's right. So like, Chad is slated to be the director for that, and that's perfect. I think he'd be great for it in terms of fight choreography and whatnot. And it's kind of cool because it's the game we've been talking about since the beginning of this podcast. If you've been following, and apparently the guy who did the mocap has been raising his hand like crazy to play the main character. So that'd be cool. Like the face mocap and everything.
Okay.
So I think one of the lines that I saw is like, I'm willing to get butt naked and get out of the steam baths, because there's parts in the game where you go to the steam baths and you like, there's this like cinematic of you just seeing his ass walk out and walk in. And he's like, I'm ready to do that. Just tell me what to do.
Just tell him what to do.
Oh man.
So Highlander reboot. I don't know if I want that, but
yeah.
To each his own.
I mean, I could see it like having good action, but that was, I'm kind of cringe about that as well. I'm like, if they do it, they better do it well.
I got you.
Yeah. I had like Henry Cavill.
Oh yeah. Him and Witcher. At first, it didn't seem like a good idea, but perfect.
He's a big nerd too.
Oh yeah.
He's like, he like builds his own PC and almost.
I think he was talking about Warframe at one time.
Warframe, that's been going around the internet lately. Yeah. About him saying like that's the wrong background or something. It was interesting. You mentioned the Count of Monte Cristo in the beginning. He's a little kid in that movie.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the main character's son. And that's him as a teenager. I had to go back and look at the credits, and I'm like, holy shit, that's him as like a barely out of pimples.
Who said we don't know what we're doing? We tied it all back to
look
the beginning.
At that.
8711, thank you.
I mean, we got to end it like that.
Right.
That's the thing.
We got to end it.
Yeah, this was a bit all over the place, but definitely something that I'm really happy you wanted to do too. And thanks for doing it with me.
Absolutely. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you guys go look up 8711.
Check them out.
Get to know the guys behind your favorite films.
Yeah, and then learn, like, that's your own documentary right there. I mean, go for it. Cool. Thanks for listening.
Hey, fan peeps. Thanks for joining. And as always, we appreciate any feedback. You can follow us on our Facebook page, They Need a Hobby, and also at ENAH Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
Hopefully one day we'll find a hobby and maybe even be one of the cool kids. Peace. As it being me.
There Chad goes racing by.
That's right. We're talking about stunts.